Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel TheCine-Prince. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Since seeing Superman and hearing about James Gunn's plans for the DCU, I've been feeling a mixture of emotions. First off, all I want to say is that this is the most I've been excited about DC for quite some time. Today I'm diving deep into James Gunn's plans for the DC universe, without over-speculating and examining what it means for fans, how it stacks up to the MCU, and why I think this could be the most faithful, fun, and creatively free take on DC Comics we've ever seen on screen. Let's talk comics, continuity, and why the future looks bright and weird in the best way possible. First off, James Gunn appears to be doing something radically different with the DCU. We're not just getting a soft reboot or another gritty take on Batman, we're getting a fully reimagined cinematic universe that actually leans into what makes DC Comics DC Comics. That means a more faithful tone, aesthetics that borrow heavily from the Golden Age and Silver Age of comics, and stories that embrace the mythic, the weird, and the colourful. Unlike the MCU, which started grounded and gradually got cosmic, the DCU is doing it all at once. I love the fact that Metropolis appears to be getting attacked by interdimensional monsters, kaijus, and supervillains like what? All in the same week in this new movie? I love that Gunn isn't shy about leaning into this craziness. We just get things like Crypto and a Green Lantern right away. He's not turning down the strangeness to make it more palatable like I think comic movies too often do. He's leaning in. It feels more comic booky, and that's very exciting to me. You can see the inspiration from classic comic book runs, the bright colours, the earnestness, and the sense of wonder. It feels like we're getting the first superhero universe that actually looks like a comic book come to life, not just in terms of visuals, but in tone and structure. The new movie has an episodic feel about it, like say issues of a comic book. We get the Hammer of Baravia segment, the kaiju battle, the escape from Lex Luthor's dimension, and the final battle. One of the things I'm most excited about is the return of this kind of episodic storytelling, something that's baked into comics but has been lost in a lot of superhero movies. Gunn has said the DCU doesn't need to be one long road to a Thanos-like villain, and honestly, I approve of that strategy at this point. Don't get me wrong, I love most of the Infinity Saga, but at this stage, Marvel feels like a machine where every movie has felt like setup for the next, which so often doesn't fully pay off, or just becomes something drastically different years down the line. Not with Mordo, anyone? Gunn's vision, each story can stand on its own. Some stories connect, sure. Others don't need to. That's how comics work. You can read a Superman comic without reading 12 other books. Same goes here. Let's talk about the villains for a second. Marvel's biggest weak spot has been its villains. Most of them show up, get one movie, and they're done. Gunn seems to be changing that. He understands the value of an arch nemesis. Characters like Lex Luthor, Sinestro, and the Joker. They're not one and done. They can come back, they evolve, they haunt the hero over time. I like that this movie sets up perfectly for Lex Luthor to return. It's possible to have the villains reappear and be as interesting as the heroes. They may even see them team up like a Legion of Doom type of deal. I've often felt that building a DC cinematic universe would be hard. It's not like Marvel where most of the characters are created by one publisher under one roof. DC's history is messy. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, they were created in different eras by different people. Some of them weren't even from DC originally, like Captain Marvel, aka Shazam, who came from Fawcett Comics. Trying to blend those characters into a single cohesive universe is a huge challenge. Tones don't always match. The histories conflict, but that's where Gunn thrives. He likes the weird, he likes the contradictions. He's the perfect guy to make sense of this beautiful chaos. And instead of flattening it all into one shared tone, he's embracing variety. Swamp Thing will be a horror movie, Booster Gold will be a sci-fi comedy. That kind of genre diversity is so refreshing. I like that there doesn't appear to be a house style in the way that there is with Marvel. Now I love Batman, who doesn't? But let's be honest, DC has relied way too heavily on the Batman for too long. He's become the cinematic crutch. As someone who wasn't a big fan of the Matt Reeves movie personally, I found recent takes of Batman have felt kind of pretentious, overly grounded even. I'm all for grounded storytelling when it's appropriate, but the Batman is the centerpiece of a universe. I think that's quite limiting. What gets me hyped is that Gunn's DCU is giving us a more fantastic take on Batman, one that can coexist with superpowered aliens and magical creatures. I want to see Ra's al Ghul with a Lazarus pit. Let's have Bane that grows huge with Venom as well. What I really like about Gunn's universe is that it's a universe that feels like it can breathe. It's not just one long march toward a big crossover event. It's a universe where stories can just exist. Superman doesn't need to be Superman Phase 1 or Part 1. It can just be a Superman story, and then we get another story, and another. Maybe they connect, maybe they don't. But they all make the universe feel bigger, richer, and more lived in. I also like not having an after credit scene at this point, so that we don't feel the need to be boxed into doing something no one intends on following up on down the line because plans changed. That's what comics do. Sometimes a Green Lantern arc runs alongside a Wonder Woman arc, and they never intersect. That's okay, that's the point. So yeah, I'm excited. Excited for a DC universe that's flexible, fun, and faithful. One that embraces the deep, sometimes messy, and often magical history of DC Comics. One that isn't afraid of costumes or cosmic and mystical weirdness. James Gunn seems to really get that comic book fans aren't looking for realism or spectacle, but looking for characters we can follow, villains we can fear and love, and stories that make us feel like anything is possible. Whether it's Superman flying above Metropolis or Swamp Thing rising from the swamp, I want a universe where every corner feels different, but still part of the same world. And if Gunn pulls this off, we won't just have a rebooted DC, we'll have the best cinematic universe comics I've ever seen. Now look, I admit that I might be a tad optimistic, though excited. I'd be lying if I said there weren't a few things that had me raising an eyebrow. First off, let's talk about Superman's box office. As iconic as the character is, he hasn't exactly dominated the box office in modern times. Can Superman's box office take far from spectacular? And when you break it down, once the studios, theatres, and marketing costs have their cut, there's not a ton of margin left for error. Future movies need to do better to justify the launch of this new universe, and that's a lot of pressure to put on this franchise. Add to the fact that we are squarely in the era of superhero fatigue. Audiences are getting pickier, the Marvel train has slowed down, streaming is oversaturated with capes, and on top of that we're seeing a rise in video game adaptations. The Last of Us, Fallout, even Sonic and Mario are finding huge success. That's the new trend, and DC is going to be fighting for relevance in a market that's shifting under its feet, up against rival studios with equally popular and probably more contemporary characters than DC with their share of Golden Age heroes. Also, and I say this as someone who generally likes James Gunn, or at least his comic book movies, there's a lingering question of whether he's making himself too much of the main character in all of this. He's directing Superman, he's overseeing the projects, and he's front and center in every press update. That's a lot of creative control in one person's hand. If it works, great, but if it doesn't, the whole thing risks becoming a vanity project. Still, I'm cautiously optimistic. There are real risks here, and I hope DC's leadership is thinking long term, not just banking on one movie to fix everything. Anyway, let me know what you're most excited for this world. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And ring that bell for more deep dives into the world of comics and superheroes.